off. My name is Sam. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at Fairygodboss. And Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Our mission is to improve the workplace by increasing transparency. We offer a ton of great free resources like anonymous company reviews, job listings, virtual recruiting events, and so much more to help you succeed throughout your career. So we are recording today's webinar, and we will be sending it out in a follow-up email, as well as posting it to the website later today. If you miss anything or you want to rewatch this back later, you will have the chance to do so. And we're also taking questions at the end of today's webinar. We'll get to as many as possible. Feel free to leave them in the Q&A. You'll find that again at the bottom of your screen. And you can leave questions as yourself or anonymously. Here with me today is Belma McCaffrey. Belma is the CEO and founder of Work Bigger. Her passion for career coaching was born out of her personal struggles with finding meaningful work that allowed her to make an impact without burning out. She's trained as a coach with the Neuro Leadership Institute and integrates neuroscience into all of her trainings. Prior to Work Bigger, she spent over 10 years in business development and strategy roles at global media organizations such as the Associated Press, Condé Nast, and Group M. Thank you so much for being here today, Belma. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. Well, thank you, Sam, for having me. And then thank you so much, everyone, for taking the hour of your day to spend with me today. I'm really excited to be here and to support you with tackling this big question, what should I do with my life? And this is really a workshop on finding your purpose. So I'm going to jump right in here. How do you answer this big question, what should I do with my life? It's a really big, daunting question. And from my experience, we really start to ask ourselves this question when we're kids. I know for me, I really needed an answer, right? Everybody asks you, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I pulled out of thin air that I'm going to be a lawyer, and basically set my whole life at the age of 9 in alignment with this goal of becoming a lawyer. And it really wasn't, I was just a kid, and it was, obviously I'm not a lawyer now. I also noticed a couple of years ago, I was up in Maine with my 9-year-old niece then, and she's sitting in the car with me and she's really emotional, she's crying, and I turn to her and I say, Ava, what's the matter? Why are you so upset? And she says, I'm really stressed out because I don't have any hobbies, and hobbies determine what I'm going to be when I grow up. So we start to really feel this immense pressure when we're kids, right, at a really young age. And it really continues on. We start college, we're forced to pick a major essentially before we know who we are and what we want to do. And then we graduate college, and before we know it, we're on this path, like climbing the corporate ladder, pushing for promotions and raises. And before we know it, we're like, wait, this isn't even really what I want to do with my life. What is that thing that I should be doing? And today I really want us to shift from that dynamic of, following an unconscious path to really figuring out what's most important to you. The reason, I want to share too, the reason answering this question, what should I do with my life, is so difficult and daunting is because we start by asking the wrong thing. We're really focused on trying to figure out what our passion is. And I'm going to explain why that's so challenging to answer and why I really believe it's the wrong question to focus on. I want to talk a little bit about passion versus purpose. And I'm going to use purpose and mission interchangeably today. So they're really the same thing in the way I'm speaking to them. Passion, if you think about the emotion that's, and the energy that's behind passion, it feels really exciting, right? There's this like high charge feeling behind it. Passion is also fleeting. You can really be passionate about one thing today, and you may not care about it tomorrow because you have different interests. I also feel that when you're a multi-passionate person, it can be really difficult to select your career based on your passion because you sort of feel like you're leaving all this other stuff behind, right? So that's a big one. I see multi-passionate people really struggle with this, like, what's my passion question. Passion is also one aspect of your purpose. So I'm going to walk you through a framework on finding your purpose today, and you're going to see passion is a big part of that, but it's not the full picture. Passion is also job quality, right? You may be passionate about your job, but it's very different than purpose. Purpose, if you think about the energy or the emotion behind it, it feels grounding. It's more of a neutral energy. It doesn't have that same like high charged excitement that passion does. It's also long lasting. When you have a purpose, you are working towards something bigger than yourself, and you are on a path that feels it's just connected to you on a deeper level. It's not something that's fleeting. It's also rooted in your values and who you are. Okay, and I'm going to talk more about that today. And lastly, it's a leadership quality versus a job quality. I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to talk about why purpose is such an important part of leadership, and outside of your career path even. The other thing I want to stress is that finding your purpose and your mission does not mean that you should work for a nonprofit or a social impact company. I get this question all the time, and I see people looking for meaning in their work, and the way to do that is by, pursuing a nonprofit, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but that's not the only way. This is really about figuring out who you are and what you want, less so about that nonprofit social impact mission of the organization. So what you're going to learn today, we're going to talk about how to leverage your mindset to get more of what you want. I'm going to explain why mindset is such an important piece of this. Then I'm going to take you through a step-by-step framework to help you find your purpose. And then we're going to answer the big question, what should I do with my life? Okay, I'm going to take you through the framework on helping you get clear on that. I also have a worksheet for you all. So I want this to be really interactive. So even though I can't take a look at the chat because I want to make sure I get through the content for you, please share in there stuff that's coming up. And I'm going to ask you when we go through the worksheet to fill in those answers and then to share your comments in the chat. All right. The other thing I want to highlight is to please stick around until the end. I have a special offer available for the Fairygodboss community, and it's time sensitive, and I'm sharing it at the end, and I don't want you to miss it. So please stick around for the full hour. Sam did a beautiful job of introducing me, so I'm going to run through this a little quickly. I want to share a little bit more about my background and why you should be listening to me today. I'm a leadership and career coach, and I'm the CEO and founder of Work Bigger. And Work Bigger is a career coaching platform. We work with dissatisfied high achievers who want to find their purpose. And we do that through a group coaching membership where leadership development and career development is more affordable and accessible. Private coaching, we have group trainings, and we also work with organizations. Like Sam said, I started Work Bigger because of a personal pain point. I spent all of my 20s feeling really disconnected from my career. I have an image of this cycle here because this is what my life looked like for almost 10 years. I started in the media world feeling really excited, really driven, and a few months in, I felt really disconnected and I really didn't understand why. So I thought, you know what, it must be the job. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna find another job. And after about 1.5 years, 2 years at my first job, I decided to go find something else, and the same thing started happening. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna go find another job, right? And this was my life in the media world. And in the meantime, throughout that, the confusion was sort of building on itself. I was stuck in these feelings of frustration. I didn't have clarity of purpose. So I really didn't know what I was fighting for or working towards. And that lack of clarity felt really stressful for me. So eventually I went back to business school because I thought, this is the best way to pivot. This will be my opportunity to figure out what I want. And when I went there, I saw that everybody was spending so much money and giving up their full-time salaries and hoping that business school was it. And none of us had really done the work, the inner work, to figure out what it is that we want so that we can leverage something like business school, which is so expensive and so time consuming. We could leverage it in the best way possible. In addition to that experience, I'm also an immigrant. I was born in Eastern Europe in a small country called Albania, which was very poor when I was living there. It's better now, but me being an immigrant has played a huge role on building Work Bigger. Back in 2019, we went back after being gone for quite a while. And this is my whole family, by the way. And I'm sitting there at the beach with my mom, and we're talking about the people and the country, and the concept of work comes up. And she says to me, to work hard is to love life. And that really stood out to me, obviously, because I'm a career coach and I love talking about work. And I'm going to repeat that. She said, to work hard is to love life. And that's, as I started to talk to her, the dots started connecting, and I realized, like, wow, my parents have always used work as a vehicle to something greater. For them, it was to escape an oppressive government and to bring us here to create a better life for ourselves. Whereas when I think about hard work here and the way, I grew up seeing it and working in corporate, it's really about climbing the corporate ladder, burning out to really fulfill the status quo, essentially, right? Versus really doing something that feeds your soul when you have the privilege to do so. Because privilege is a big part of that as well, right? When you have the privilege for work to be a vehicle to creativity and to making an impact, to making a difference, it's a beautiful thing to be able to leverage it in that way when you can. The last thing I'll share is that Work Bigger has been around for about 5 years now. It was a side hustle when I first launched it. I was working full-time at the Associated Press, and I was a new mom. So I started it on the side, and I've been running it full-time for a little more than 2 years now. We've been featured in the Zoe Report, Forbes, Fortune, and I've worked with some amazing organizations. And like Sam said, I'm trained with the Neuro Leadership Institute, and I'm going to bring some of that work into the presentation today. I'm going to share with you some neuroscience, which will help you make sense of like that stuck feeling that I'm sure some of you are experiencing right now. Now, I really want to shift. I want to talk about you. Tell me if this sounds like you. This is what I see with Work Bigger members and clients all the time before they come to Work Bigger. I'm thinking that you're here because you have big goals and you want to make an impact, but you have no idea what that looks like or where to start. And if this is resonating with you, like, please share in the comments. Because I'm curious to hear if this does sound like you. You're also talented and you know it, but imposter syndrome and lack of confidence, right? Those things may creep up on you and they stall your growth. They might keep you like feeling stuck. You also want to make a move, but you're thinking, I'm going to have to take a pay cut, or I don't know what's out there, right? That uncertainty comes up and this stops you before you even start. I hear this one all the time. And then with COVID-19, you may have realized that time is too precious. You're really ready to figure out what you really want to do with your life and career. And if you're in a job that's not quite in alignment with who you are and what you want, you're really ready to make that shift. So let's talk about how to solve this dilemma. I'm going to take you through 3 steps today. The first is mindset, leveraging your mindset to get more of what you want. So the first thing is really believing that change is possible for you and that you can answer this question for yourself. We talk a lot at Work Bigger about making decisions from a place of possibility versus fear. Making decisions from a place of possibility means that you're making decisions that lead to growth, that are maybe uncomfortable, but they open up doors and opportunities for you, right? It's from a place of possibility. Making decisions from a place of fear means that you're making choices to keep you safe. Our bodies and mind are designed to keep us safe first. So fear is a huge part that comes up when we have to make those difficult choices. So I want to talk about how to make decisions from a place of possibility. So the brain operates in 2 ways. There's the away state and the toward state. And I'm simplifying this, right? But this is how I want you to think about it. The away state and the toward state. When you're in the away state, you're in a place of fight or flight. You're in that fear place and you're either avoiding or you're reacting. So imagine that you're really stressed out about your career transition. What I see happening is a number of things. If you're avoiding, maybe you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix, and not in the self-care way, because I'm all for watching Netflix in the self-care way, but really avoiding things that are doing the things that are in service to you, in service of your goals, right? That will ultimately support you in the long run, right? Or you're reacting. I see this all the time, people sending out applications and just applying to companies without thinking about their process, without slowing down and thinking about what's working, what's not working. Is this in alignment with what I really want to do, right? You're kind of like just going, and then you're kind of like in that reactive mode. The prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's really responsible for planning and decision making, is really limited when you're in the away state, and it impacts 4 areas. It impacts your creativity, really your ability to solve problems, your collaboration and how you work with others, your working memory, like you can't retain as much information because you're just so focused on survival. And then your field of view, that's where the possibility aspect comes in. You can't you can't see what possibilities are, because again, all of your brain's resources are going towards keeping you safe. So it's like a tunnel vision of safety. All right. So those 4 areas are really impacted. The emotions that are present when you're in the away state, they're more negative emotions like anger, frustration, confusion, overwhelm, right? Stress, all the stuff that you want to avoid. So it makes sense that you're going to try to turn all of those emotions off by avoiding. I want to give you an example, and here is where I would love for you all to take out the worksheet. Sam, if you don't mind just popping it in the chat real quick. I put together a worksheet for you all because I really want to demonstrate how important it is to recognize, right, the impact that being in the away state can have on you. So here's an example that I've shared. So open up the worksheet, go to the first page, and I'm going to read this example for you all, right? So let's say you want something different with your career, but you're feeling really stuck, right? And maybe some of the things you're thinking, I'm giving you some of the thoughts here that you may be having is, I'm so exhausted, I want to figure this out, but I don't know where to start, and it's going to be really hard. And if I make this change, I'm going to have to give up my good salary. Okay, so I'm giving you some of the thoughts. Now just take a minute, and I'm just going to look at the time. Take a minute and just write some of the thoughts that are present. And then I want you to connect with the emotions that are coming up in connection to these thoughts. And then I want you to write, what are the actions that you want to take as a result? And I'm going to try to open the chat here. So I'm going to minimize my screen because I really want to see what everyone is sharing. Okay, so I see Sam shared the worksheet. Thank you so much, Sam. So take a minute. Again, I'm looking at my clock. My screen is minimized. So outline the thoughts that are present for you, right? You're thinking, I'm so exhausted. I want to leave. I want to figure this out, but I don't know where to start. And it's going to be really hard, right? And I'm going to have to take a pay cut. Like something's going to have to give. I'm going to have to give up my good salary. And then what are the emotions that are present for you? Overwhelmed. Thank you, Holly. And then with that, Holly, so now from that place of overwhelm that you're in, what is the action that you want to take? So I want you to tie the thought to the feeling to the action. Fear. Thank you, Kelly. Another job could be just as bad. Why bother? Amazing, Lisa. So like now, similarly, what is the action that you want to take? Ageism. Yeah, ageism is a real thing, Krista. Yeah, that is a valid, very valid fear. There's so much overwhelm and uncertainty. Overwhelmed, not sure that I can get anything better. I don't have the bandwidth to apply for jobs. Anxiety, yes. Thank you everyone for sharing all of this. So with that, so see, what is the action that you want to take or not take, right? What comes up in terms of doing or not doing? Does avoidance come up? Anything reactive? Okay, thank you so much everyone for sharing this. And I really hope it's helpful too for the Fairygodboss community to just see where everyone is at. Everybody has so many similar struggles. So, you're not alone with these feelings of frustration and difficulty that come up here. So I'm going to keep going. And if, I recommend too, like doing this exercise again, even after this call, but I'm going to keep going just for the sake of time. One of the takeaways that I would love for you all to see, right, when you tie the thought to the emotion that comes up to the action, is that when you're operating from that place of overwhelm, anxiety, fear, right, you may not necessarily take the actions that serve you, right? Maybe think about, a few of you shared about the overwhelm, like what are you inspired or not inspired to do, right? So that's what I see with Work Bigger members and clients all the time. When you're coming from that away state, you just maybe inaction is really what's present for you. So now we're going to shift, okay? And I know we were in the away state. I want us to now shift, and let's talk about the toward state. When you're in the toward state, you're in a place of reward. You're experiencing a dopamine release, and the chemical dopamine feels really good and it essentially drives you into action. The prefrontal cortex, again, that part of your brain that's responsible for planning and decision making, is highly functioning. So your creativity is a lot better. You can come up with solutions to problems, right? Increased cognition, right? You are able to, like, your working memory is better. You can retain more information. You're able to work better with others, and you also have the broader field of view. You can see more options and opportunities for yourself. All right. The toward state is driven by positive emotions. So things like excitement, joy, happiness, curiosity, like all the good stuff. So now I want you to take a moment and I want you to tune into the toward state. So go to the second page of the worksheet. I want you to think of a time that you succeeded after taking a risk. So see if you have a memory that comes up. Maybe you committed to a relationship that you were really afraid to commit to, right? It required you to be vulnerable. Maybe you made the decision to start a family and there was a lot of fear behind that originally. It felt really risky. Maybe you took on a project at work that felt really scary, or you decided to show up for an interview that you felt really intimidated by, right? Or you spoke up for yourself at work. So take a minute, think of a time that you succeeded after taking a risk. And similarly, I want you to, I'm going to just minimize my screen again because I want to see what comes up for you all. Think about the thought that's present for you as you think about the success that you experienced. Then I want you to identify the emotion. And then I want you to identify the action that you're inspired to take following that emotion. So I'm going to give you all a minute to work through those 3 questions on page 2, and I'm going to take a look at the chat. And if you have an answer already, right, you're identifying the thoughts that are coming up for you as you think about this time that you succeeded, you did something really well, you took a risk. Share what's coming up for you. Share the emotion and the action. Sarah says, pride and excitement for succeeding. Diana, power, grateful, happy, go for it. That's really powerful, Diana. There's a lot of energy in even the way that you wrote that. Holly, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would have been. Confidence, pride, power, proud that I took initiative, but also imposter syndrome. Yeah, and that's very real. You can have 2 opposite emotions at the same time. Satisfaction, ready to do or take on more. Oh, that's so awesome, Stephanie. That's, again, I sense like a lot of energy in these words. I went to grad school and it was a risk. I was so proud that I did it. That's amazing, right? I worked super hard and succeeded and I finished it. Share the worksheet one more time. Sam, do you mind popping it in there one more time for everyone? Yeah, this is amazing. So keep sharing. So again, I hope this demonstrates that when you're operating from that place of like possibility, right? You're doing the scary thing in a thoughtful, calculated way, right? You're not coming from that place of fear. You take actions and you create better results for yourself. Like just reading this chat, I can sense the pride and the excitement and like all of the positive emotions that come up as a result of taking that risk, making those decisions. So I just want to say kudos, like that's really amazing. All right. So I'm gonna keep moving on because I want to get to the other question. So I'm gonna maximize my screen again. Just give me 1 second. All right. This is a quick summary of the away and toward responses. I'm going to go through this really quick. So again, when we're in the away state, we're detecting a threat. We're in a place of like fight or flight. We're working from a place of fear. When we're in the toward state, we detect a reward and we move towards possibility. Bad is stronger than good. And I think that's such an important thing to always know. The fear is always going to be stronger, no matter what, because your mind and your body are there to protect you, right? So don't ever expect the toward state to be more powerful than the fear. The fear is always going to be stronger. And I also want to say both are completely normal. There's absolutely no shame in being in the away state. What I want you to take from this is really to build your self-awareness so that you know, am I making decisions from a place of the away state or the toward state, right? Or am I making decisions that serve me? But this is part of the human condition, experiencing both, right? You just want to be self-aware and you want to stay in action and you want to make more decisions from that toward state. All right, so the second step in answering what should I do with my life is I want you to adopt a different strategy. So let's talk about the strategy that I currently see with a lot of people who come to Work Bigger, right? I'm always seeing, what should I do next? Like, that is the big question that people ask. And I wrote the what in caps because what I see is that people are looking for the job role. What is that job role that is going to satisfy me? So if you remember that cycle that I shared, that is also the cycle that I was in. What is that job role that's going to solve this dilemma for me? Right? And that's not the way, right? I see people applying and searching for jobs online, like people go on Indeed, and maybe you're looking for like what feels right or what looks right because you're looking for different options. And I totally get that. I once bought a book called The Big Book of Jobs because I was hoping if I find something in there that feels right or looks right, maybe I'll know, maybe I'll have my answer. I also see a lot of our members and clients like exploring opportunities, but they're not quite sure if it's the right path, right? So I see people exploring things like business school, which is what I did, or grad school, or investing in a course or a program, like getting a certain certification, but that clarity of purpose isn't there, so that they're not necessarily pursuing these paths with a lot of clarity and conviction. It's that like underlying hope of, okay, I hope this is it. It feels like this might be it, but I'm not quite sure. So if this sounds like you, like I'm curious, like just share in the comments if this is resonating, because these are some of the ways that I see our members and clients trying to solve this big dilemma. So what I want you to do, I want you to adopt a new strategy instead, right? The strategy I just shared is very external. You're looking for the job, you're looking for the role, the thing outside of you to give you this fulfillment, right? To give you that answer that you're looking for. So instead of looking outside of yourself, I want you to go inward and I want you to find your purpose. So why is this important and how is it going to serve you? So this is from the Energy Project. They're an amazing consultancy. And one thing that I've learned from them is that we have 4 core human needs that allow for fulfillment, connection, and well-being. We have an emotional need. We need to experience things like gratitude and appreciation to feel emotionally healthy. Mental health is another core need, right? So having time for reflection, not feeling mentally drained or exhausted, really just giving yourself some mental space. We have physical needs, right? We need to exercise, eat well, sleep well, and we also have a spiritual need. And this has nothing to do with your religious beliefs or background, anything like that. It's really about having a sense of purpose and having a connection to what you're doing every day. So does your work align with your values, right? Do you feel that connection with what you're doing? So this purpose is a core human need. The other reason it's so important is that having a purpose focuses your path. So I want you to think about what you're looking for when you're asking questions like, what's my passion? You're looking for a sense of focus. I'm going to read this quote by Dr. Christine Whelan in The Big Picture. She says, research suggests that getting into a purpose mindset, identifying how your specific talents and values intersect with the needs of others, is the first step toward living a purposeful life. Young adults who lack a clear sense of purpose or purpose mindset merely exist, while those with a clear picture of what they want and should do thrive. That's so powerful, right? It's like purpose can really focus your path and it allows you to work towards something. The other thing I want to share, I talked about before how purpose is a leadership quality, passion is a job quality. It is a much needed leadership quality. And the Authentic Leadership Institute, I found this statistic. They say we found that fewer than 20% of leaders have a strong sense of their individual purpose. Even fewer can distill their purpose into a concrete statement. So when I think about things like workplace toxicity and poor leadership and leaders making decisions to appease stakeholders versus really taking care of their employees, I think that is because that we have a lot of leaders who are making decisions from an external place, right? They're not grounded in their purpose, in their values. They're not integrating those values into their leadership, or they're speaking those values, but not truly living them. And I think, not just with where we are today, but it's such a needed leadership quality that I really feel serves you beyond your career change. It's about leadership and how you impact others. And when you come from a place of purpose, you're able to do that in a much bigger way. All right. So now step number 3, how do you find your purpose? I'm going to walk you all through the Work Bigger framework. This is what we do with all of our members and clients, and I'm really excited to share it with you all today. All right. So this framework is meant to help you answer the big question, what should I do with my life? And the first step, right, instead of starting what job is right for me, like what should I be doing, we start with why. And it's really taken from Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. We use his framework to explain this type of thinking. So the first step is to establish the emotional connection that you're looking for, right? So identifying your why really requires you to look at your interests. There's where your passions come in. So it's a part of your purpose, your values, what you stand for, your pain points, and your experiences. So even the really difficult things in life that you may not want to look at, but they're so important to look at because they've really shaped your belief system, right? And you start to understand how your struggles really have shaped who you are. So this is all the stuff. This, I would say, is usually the most challenging part that I see because it's the more emotional piece, right? And that emotional piece, we're not used to thinking and communicating that way, right? We're more tactical. We need something more tangible, and that's okay. That's why I think this framework is really helpful. It's meant to make it more tangible, right? And also, I want to share this quote by Michelle Obama. I love this when I heard this in her documentary. She said, "Your story is what you have, what you will always have. It is something to own," right? And to me, I thought, wow, that is so incredible. That is why looking at the pain points and the experiences and usually all the stuff that we don't want to look at, it's really important because it is a part of our story and what we've experienced. And it ultimately helps us understand who we are. After the why, then we move to the how, right? And we start to understand we start to ask, what are your talents? What do you want to be doing every day? It's really important that you get clear on your superpower. So this is the how is really, how do you want to bring those values and those interests, right? And who you are, how do you want to bring that forward? What are your strengths? Do you lean towards strategic thinking, or are you more focused on relationship building? What do you feel, what are you doing when you're feeling really confident, right? So getting clear on that how piece is the next step. And then the third piece, this is where the what comes in, which is such a valid question, wanting to know, like, well, what is that job that's going to help me feel really fulfilled? What is it that I want to do with my life, right? So this piece is the third step. It's just not the first step, right? So this question is still really important, but it's the third step. And the way your mission can come to life, it can look different ways. It might be through a specific job. It might be through a side hustle or a side project. It might be through volunteering or a hobby. Here is also where I think circumstances are really important. If you're not in a situation, right, where your job can equal your purpose right now, that is absolutely okay. Right? It's okay, right? Your purpose can come forward in other ways. It's really how you impact others. I also want to share that the what piece, it can change. You're not going to be in the same job forever. It's, the workplace is different now, right? So the job role is really fluid. And especially if you're multi-passionate, I find that my multi-passionate clients and members find a lot of relief when they see this. They're like, okay, the job role is fluid. The purpose is really the long-lasting anchor. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, so now I want us to get started with defining the purpose piece. So if you can please go back to the worksheet, or Sam, if you don't mind resharing it, just in case anybody has joined late. I want you to now go to the last page, or I think it should be the second page or the third page. I don't remember. I think it's 2 or 3 pages. And I want you to just take a moment, list 3 things that you care about, 3 things that you're passionate about, interests. I'm going to minimize my screen because I want to open the chat again here. Okay, list 3 things that you care about. And then I want you to ask yourself, how do these interests make you feel, right? So maybe, let's say cooking is an interest for you. Think about the emotion that comes up. Is it a sense of peace? Is it content? Is it excited? Is it creative, right? And then I want you to ask yourself, what are you getting from these interests? So as you're sharing, I'm going to share an example with one of my clients. We did this exercise together, and what she was getting from these interests, I'm using her example actually, cooking was one of her top interests. And it made her feel a sense of connection. And what she was getting from cooking was a sense of togetherness and connection with her family. And the point is not that she should take cooking and parlay it into a career, but what we want her to do is to take, and you to do, is to take that desire for connection and to bring that forward into your work. So this is an opportunity to dig deeper and to explore your interests in a deeper way and to look at them beyond the surface. Okay, so take a minute and work through this exercise, and I'm just going to check here in this chat. Beautiful. Okay. I see family core values, cooking for my family, playing music, reading. Wonderful. So ask yourself, how do these things make you feel, and what are you getting from them? I love these answers. Fulfilled, a sense of purpose. Yes, and as you list your 3 too, and you're identifying the feeling and what you're getting from the interest, think about the connection, right? How is there like a common thread, right? So actually, connection that my client was getting from cooking was a common thread that was showing up among many of her interests. Reading makes me feel peaceful. I love to help people. Beautiful. Achievement from saving money. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, I love it. All right. Yes, and do this again, everyone, too. If this exercise is resonating, again, I want you to dig deeper. It's not about taking that interest, that passion, and parlaying it into a career. It's about digging deeper, pulling the thing that's underneath that and bringing that forward into your work. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next section because I want to share some examples with you all. This, I find, helps make the purpose piece really tangible. This is Leanne Newmoff. This is one of my earliest clients and members when we had just started Work Bigger. We did the Work Bigger framework with her. We took her through it, and she's an artist. And why I love using her example is because art is one of those things that people feel is like really hard to make it in, and it's quote unquote unrealistic. And when she joined Work Bigger, she was in this place of, she says, I wasn't able to visualize a life as an artist up until that point. I had internalized that my art was only ever going to be a side hustle and is not a realistic way to build a life. And then following that, she says, every decision I've made since comes back to my being an artist. I stopped looking at jobs that weren't in the art and design sector. I stopped trying to come up with lines of business that had nothing to do with art. I basically stopped trying to be things that I am not. Being an artist and building that life has been my guiding compass, which I think is so powerful, right? Because she shifted from that place of, this is not possible, this is not a way to make a life, to a place of possibility. And all of her decisions shifted to create this life for herself. And she has her own studio, and she is a full-time artist. And her mission is to create aesthetic experiences that tell a story, bring people together, and inspire positive change. I want to share a few other missions, purpose statements, because I think it's really powerful to help them just to see them. Ada Chen, who is one of my most incredible clients, she says, making the world a better place through leadership, empathy, and driving cultural change. Luaska Nonon, another one of my favorite humans, to create environments where one's authentic self is welcomed, heard, and appreciated, so that together we may empower and equip others to do the same. And then Alexandra Kay, my mission is to live fully through having new experiences out of my comfort zone, consistently learning and developing relationships with diverse and interesting people. So you'll notice there's nothing in here about the job role. All of that came later. Luaska, she figured out the what. She figured out the what, but it started with this. This was her grounding, the thing that grounded her. Same with Ada. Ada has now launched 2 businesses. okay? And she started with the mission. It was the mission that propelled her to figure out the what. It wasn't the other way around. The thing that I also want to highlight, what's really interesting about the purpose and the toward state is that they feed into each other. Having a purpose moves you into the toward state because having an aim reduces confusion, right? Imagine when you feel stuck, right? And when you're at that place of like, I don't know what I want to do, you feel stuck. And that's where like the inaction comes in, the avoidance comes in. So having a purpose moves you into a toward state as well. So it's really fascinating how they play into each other. And it also gives you something positive to work towards and something to look forward to. All right, I'm going to do a quick recap and then I'm going to jump into the special offer and then I want to talk questions. This is the traditional path. I want to highlight this again because this is what many of us have experienced. I thought I was the only person. I felt very isolated in my 20s when I thought that I just couldn't find that connection and that fulfillment. So we're testing job to job to job, hoping that that external thing, that thing on the outside is going to give us the answer when really we need to go inward. And this is the work bigger path. This is everything I've shared with you here. So you start with possibility, right, in that toward state. Then you find your purpose and vision, which gives you that sense of clarity. It gives you that grounding. You develop a strategy and take action. And then ultimately you're working bigger, right? You're connected to your work, you're connected to yourself, and ultimately you're realizing your potential, because that's really the point of work bigger. It's really to help you realize your full potential as a leader. And then you have your answer. What should I do with my life, right? The career change process is about possibility. It's meant to expand you, not limit you, right? It's meant to push you out of your comfort zone in the best way. And as a result, you can have an impact on others and in the world, because one person finding their purpose, this is what I've seen. When one leader finds their purpose, the way they impact their employees, their team, their family, it's so significant, right? It goes way beyond that individual. And as a result of that, actually for Work Bigger, we've made a goal this year to help 40 new people find their purpose, because I see that the impact that just one person can have. Yeah, I love sharing that goal that I've set for the new year. Really just, it gives me life. So as I'm sharing here today, I'd love for you all just to take a few seconds and think about, just what resonated with you here today. What are you taking from this conversation? I would love to know. Again, I'm going to minimize my screen because I just want to see what some of the comments are coming in are, and then I'm going to share my special offer. Oh, most everything you said and presented has resonated. Thank you, Stephanie. That is so generous. I'm so happy to hear that. Hope, looking inwards for purpose. Purpose versus role. Never thought of it that way. The path forward, the framework. I love it. Oh my goodness. This is amazing to see, everyone. Thank you so much. Yes, I need to go back to the why first, purpose first. We can accomplish our passions. Yes. Oh, this is wonderful. I realize that I'm in the away state. Yes, that's so common too. Every time I do this presentation or some form of it and I talk about the away state, there's that awareness of, oh wait, I've been in this place, and there's nothing wrong with that. Give yourself some grace. 2020 was so hard, right? But the point is just to be aware of it, to raise your awareness around that so that you can shift how you make decisions. All right, so I'm going to jump to the special offer, and then I want to keep the comments coming. I love to. It's such a great opportunity for everybody to connect. And then I want to jump to the questions. I want to make sure we have time to answer any questions. All right, so my special offer for you all, Sam, if you don't mind sharing a link, I'd love to offer a free private call for anybody. If the Work Bigger path really resonated with you today and you're thinking, okay, it's 2021, I'm really ready to figure this out. I want to figure out what my purpose is. I don't want to stay in that cycle anymore. I would love to chat with you. And what we can do on this call is we can dig deep with your specific challenge, and we can see if Work Bigger can support you in a bigger way. So as a coach, I'm opening up a handful of spots, about 5 spots for actually 4 spots for private coaching. And if everything you're hearing here today is speaking with you and you're thinking, okay, I really want to figure out how this can apply to me in a deeper way, again, I'd love to chat. Here is the form to fill this out. And I want to say, so whenever I offer the private consultation, I usually get, and there's a lot of people on this call, and about 900 people signed up for this event. So the spots are going to go really fast. So if this is something you want to take advantage of, please just do this today, because I obviously only have a few spots open. My goal is to just have some conversations tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday. So I know they're going to go quick. So fill out this form, and then I'll reach out to you. But yeah, take some time, read through it, fill it out. I also see that when people start to fill out this form, it also puts you into that toward state, because we don't often take time to reflect and to think about our goals and what we want. And this is the perfect time to do that for the new year. So again, my special offer is a free private call. If you're wondering too how Work Bigger can support you in a bigger way, we can talk about that. I'd love to connect with you, and we can dig a little bit more deeper on what's got you stuck and what you need to do to work on it. It could be more mindset work. It could be more clarity on your purpose. And with that, I'm minimizing my screen again because I want to see the chat. Let's see. Thank you so much, Sam, for sharing that. And then let's jump into questions, Sam. Is that okay? We have like 10 minutes, which is great.
Yeah, that sounds great. So one question that kept coming up that I just want to answer right away. You will all be getting the recording of this presentation later today in an email, along with the links to the worksheet, as well as that free private call with Belma. So if you lost the links in the chat, you will get them later this afternoon, so be on the lookout. We'll also be reposting the recording of today's session on the Fairygodboss site on that same event page where you signed up for the event. So if you lose the email or anything, you can just go back to the site and find it there. You can access it at any time. But with that being said, feel free to drop questions in the Q&A. Reminder, you can leave them as yourself or anonymously. But we already have a bunch in there, so I'm going to jump right in. A great question here from Patty. So she said, you figure it all out. You finally come to what you should be doing, but you're in your 50s and you're facing ageism. How do you tackle that while trying to start something new?
Yeah, that's thank you so much for asking that. What was her name? Was it Patty?
Patty.
Patty, yeah, thank you so much. A lot of our clients and members deal with this as well. And it's really frustrating. I think ageism is one of those things that, for me, as a founder of Work Bigger, I've been trying to work with my clients to understand what they can do. Some of it feels like it's out of your control, right? But I also think what I've told my clients to do is to see if they can connect with people within the organization, to really understand the company culture. Is the organization really taking efforts to step outside of that, to really check their own biases? I think a lot of the good thing that 2020 has brought to light is just more awareness on our own biases, right, as humans. And I think it's really important to try to find an organization that doesn't just put like the lid on ageism and says like, no, we're not ageist, but really is addressing it head on. And from my experience and what I've seen with my clients and members is that the way they're tackling that is really by building relationships and trying to find those organizations that are really trying to push past that. Because I think it's a terrible thing, and I think it's a disservice to the organization because they lose out on amazing talent, and it's also terrible for the candidates as well to experience that.
Thank you. A really interesting question from Janice here that I saw a few people talking about in the chat during your presentation, actually. How do I go deeper than it makes me happy to identify a specific feeling? And I think that's really important with your job, because you don't want to just pick 50 things that make you happy. I mean, I know ice cream makes me happy, but that's probably not, how I want to go into my career. So how do you identify stronger and more specific feelings that you can relate to, your career and your job?
Yes, that's a good one. So labeling the emotion is really, really powerful, right? So I actually invite you all, if you're thinking like, okay, well, happy feels kind of broad. We use this, if you Google, I don't have the link in front of me, but if you Google NVC, I'm going to type it in here, NVC feelings inventory. This is what I use with my clients all the time, inventory. NVC is nonviolent communication. And what you can do when you take a look at this chart, just sit with the emotions that are labeled on there and think about like, okay, happy feels kind of broad. Like, what is it? Is it excitement, joy, right? So really just give yourself some space to play with that emotion and to experience it. And then ask yourself a different question. The question I like that I have in the worksheet is, what does this thing give you? Like, is it giving you a sense of connection? Is it giving you an opportunity to build a relationship? Right? So see if you can dig a little bit deeper, like what is underneath that happiness. It can feel challenging at first, right? Because we're not used to like thinking that way and like pushing like so beneath the surface. So if it's challenging, just see if you can sit with it and then see if that feelings inventory can spark some new thoughts for you.
Awesome. Another question here from Carly. So when you actually find your purpose, what's next? Should I go to the jobs board? Should I just start Googling random companies I think I'd like? Like, what should my first step be once I know what I want to do?
Yeah. So it's different for everyone. At Work Bigger, after the whole like find your purpose section, we talk about job search strategy, and that really means coming up with a strategy that feels good for you, and it depends where you are. When you're finding your purpose, there's some things that are going to come up for you that you're going to be interested in. You're going to ask yourself like, oh, well, you know what? I've always thought about exploring that as a potential line of work. So my recommendation as a career coach is not to jump into the job boards, but to really create a strategy where you can start making connections, identifying some of your questions and your knowledge gaps, and then going out there and getting answers, which is really through community and relationship building. That's why I'm such a fan of community, like Fairygodboss. It's such a great way, right, to connect with other people who are in that exploratory phase, but then you really want a strategy to explore and in a way that's methodical, and it's going to help you to like improve your process along the way, because you're going to run into like hiccups, right? It's not going to be complete smooth sailing. It's going to be another journey. But that's why I'm a huge fan of community and building relationships and using those relationships to start, fueling your exploratory phase.
And I think it's important to note, which is kind of what Belma said this whole time, is like you probably won't get it right away. It's going to take a lot of time. Trial and error is definitely a part of this process. So, as you're going through this process, don't think that if the first job you try, you realize maybe that's not what you want to do, that you failed this process. You just need to take a step back, kind of revisit all of these things Belma has already walked you through, and try again. A good question here from an anonymous attendee. How do you balance doing all of this work if you, financially speaking, need to get a job, to pay the bills, but that job isn't your purpose, but you're taking it just, to fulfill those needs? How do you find that balance?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. That's the comment that I like briefly made about privilege in the beginning. So it is really important. So finding your purpose, when you are at a place where your job can equal your purpose, there is privilege there, right? Your basic needs have been met. Okay, so that's really important to not shame yourself or beat yourself up if you're not there, because it just takes time. So my recommendation is meet your needs first. It is really important. If you need a job to pay the bills, you get that job and you make the most out of that. This work, finding your purpose, is really about identifying your values, right? And I shared in the what, like your purpose can really come to life in many different ways. If you're not in a position where your purpose can equal your job, right? There's different ways, the way you show up in the workplace, right? And how you impact other people around you, how you impact your team, how you bring your values to life. All of that stuff is still really powerful. And there's a way to do that in a way that doesn't equal your job, right? Again, because that's fluid. Like right now, your job, you may need it just to pay the bills. You need a job right away, especially with the economy and the high unemployment rates. A lot of people are in that position, and there's nothing wrong with that. But your purpose can come to life in so many different ways.
We have a few questions here, kind of all related. Some people talking about being overwhelmed by this whole process. Somebody said, I'm completely paralyzed for fear of change. That's really scary for a lot of people. Do you have any tips to attendees for coping with that and overcoming those strong emotions?
Yeah, Um, Fear of change. Yeah, change is really scary, right? So when that comes up, it sounds like uncertainty is a big trigger for you, right? Like you don't know what's to come and it keeps you stuck. I'm a big fan of allowing your emotions rather than fighting them. When we fight them, it essentially creates more of that negative emotion, more of that overwhelm. So what I would encourage you to do, and if it feels challenging, even if you can just try for like 5-10 seconds, see if you can just allow that emotion, right? And just see what comes up for you. I also think a really helpful tool is to journal, right? And to journal on what that emotion feels like. Like I feel really overwhelmed. It's completely taking over me. And I also like to use a mantra like, okay, like I hear you, I see you, I feel you. Like really acknowledging that that emotion is there versus saying like go away, like stop it, and that kind of just it creates more of that energy. So see if those tools will work for you. And again, I can't like journaling for me has been really powerful and for a lot of my clients as well.
Awesome. And then just one last question here from Mary. She knows her purpose, but it's different from what she's been doing throughout your career. So again, this kind of goes to that change. She's asking, how should she incorporate her purpose into her resume if it's not what she's been doing, but it's what she wants to be doing? Or is the resume the right place to incorporate it? Should she just save it for a cover letter, interview? Do you have any advice around that?
Yeah, so a lot of Work Bigger members and clients share their purpose statements in their LinkedIn. It's like the thing that they lead with, which I think is so powerful and amazing. So if you have a purpose statement, I would include it there. I'm not sure about the resume. I think it depends on the format, right? And if you have like a statement at the top, it could be a good place for it. And as you're sharing, like what came up for me is transferable skills. So even if you haven't been doing like what you want to do, think about what skills are transferable that you can translate into your resume and tweak your resume to speak to the job that you want.
All right, perfect. Well, we're right at time. So I want to thank you, Belma, once again for a wonderful presentation and for taking time to answer our questions. Thank you to everybody who joined us today and spent the last hour here. We really appreciate it. Definitely check out the Fairygodboss events calendar. We have some awesome events coming up this month, and I'd love to see you there. Belma, any closing thoughts before I end things here today?
Yeah, just thank you so much, Sam. This was so much fun. The Fairygodboss community is amazing. I feel just so honored that you all spent the hour with me. I hope I get to connect with you on the call. Take advantage of that if it feels good for you and you're looking to explore more support. You want to dig a little deeper with your challenge. I'd love to talk to you. And yeah, thank you, Sam, so much. This was it was a great time. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll catch you at the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.